What's up, everybody? Welcome to the LovePastors Podcast. I am your host, Gary, and you guys know these episodes are conversations with pastors, getting behind the scenes a little bit, getting to hear their soul, their heart for leadership. And today, guys, I'm thrilled to bring on longtime friend and pastor from Grace Fellowship in Pickerington, Ohio, Keith Manier. What's up, Keith?
What's up, Gary, man? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Great to see you. How are you, by the way? You're right now, Grace Fellowship. You've been leading, you said, how many, 24 years?
21 years.
21 years. Maybe tell us a little bit about, I don't even know where you would start to say 21 years.
Yeah.
Where are you at as far as from where you started to how it's going? Because I think it's incredible.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, thanks for having me on. Appreciate what you're doing. Love you and love the way that you're loving pastors, and I'm grateful for a long time friendship. Yeah, 21 years ago, I took over a church that had been in existence. It was planted, it was going, it had hit a peak of about maybe 200 people. Then they were slowly dying and reached out, and I got connected to them. Eventually got a job at a church to basically do a restart or a revitalization. And my first weekend there were 52 people. Wow. And so 21 years ago, 52 people. Fast forward now, site church, multiple campuses, 5,000 people on the weekend, probably 8,000 to 9,000 people that call Grace home, all the stuff. And so it's been a pretty wild journey in that. Started at a church, married with no kids, now have 4 kids, 1 in college, 1 a senior, 2 in grade school. So kind of all the things, seen all the different shapes and sizes of church and different ways we've been doing it, from adopting a campus to portable campuses to launching a campus and building it ground up, kind of everything in between. So that's kind of where we're at, doing great on a real good season right now, with a lot to be encouraged about.
I love your story, Keith, and but I feel like we met about 21 years ago. I had just moved to Delaware to be a lead pastor of an established church, and we had this regular, it was called ministerium. I don't know what you guys call it anymore.
Yeah.
Like pastors groups, all that to say, like, man, I love having seen a little bit of, and then at sometimes up close through small groups we've been in together, like what the journey has been like, not just for, I think we can sometimes get excited about the church growth story, but there's behind every church or body of believers or movement, there's a real person. There's the Keith that just loves Jesus and wants to see people meet Jesus. How did that like burn in you as you took over the church? Because you were like, I want to see people come to faith in Christ.
Yeah, I think Gary, it's been interesting, sort of the good side of that, how that morphed, and even something I had to pay attention to in that. When you're a Christian who's really following Jesus passionately, you can't help but want other people to hear about that, right? You can't help but want other people to go after that. And when I started at Grace, I never had visions of a big church and multi-site and any of that stuff. My heartbeat was reach people, make the next right decision right in front of you, and just kind of reach people one person at a time, and whatever would happen. And I'm kind of a natural prophetic evangelist in the way that I engage people and engage the world. And so my heart was, I wanted a church where we were going to reach people. And what's interesting is over time, I went from reaching people that build a church to, I think I accidentally started trying to build a church that would reach people. And that sounds subtle, but it matters, because you start almost thinking about people as categories instead of people. You start thinking about programs over actual like one-on-one conversations. And I think the real strength for me as a leader, as a person, and as our church has been when I've just been closest to reaching people individually. So my kids have been in athletics and in school and in the community. And so am I reaching the other parents and the other coaches and the things that I'm involved in? And I think for me, Gary, that heart was what really brought me to ministry. And it's when I've kept that the best, and when I've been able to lead with that the best in mind, I feel like our church has been in the healthiest place and has the healthiest heart of the gospel in front of it. And there's been different seasons where I think I've drifted not away from the idea of wanting to reach people, but really kind of like the mindset of how you do it. So I just think when I go back to the beginning, and I've tried to stay this, and I think, again, you've known me long enough. I always told people that, and I keep telling people this, when it's all said and done, the only thing I'm going to have in the end of this is my relationship with Jesus. And I want to
Mm,
make sure I
mm.
come out of this as a really committed follower of Jesus. And so my character, my heart for the gospel, my love for the Lord, my desire to know him personally more, hear from him, and connect people to him is really the heart of how I try to lead and preach and be
Yeah,
a
yeah,
person. And I
yeah,
feel like amidst all of the different seasons, that's really happened well because I feel like I've continued to first and foremost be a follower of Christ.
yeah. Well, and I love, Keith, that you in a lot of ways you are the same guy that you were 21 years ago. You love Jesus, you love people, you love basketball. Like we can talk about the NBA all day. This could turn quickly into a Cavs season forecast,
For
and
sure.
I
For
actually
sure.
would love your opinion on LeBron versus MJ. Even though I'm tired of the debate, I'm a kid from Akron like you, right? But I'm just saying, like over the years, like you're a pastor, I've just enjoyed staying in touch with as a friend and as a brother in Christ. Even though I moved away, like you've stayed connected with a lot of your friends, and you're wired that way. And I don't know if in 2004 or five or six you thought. I mean, did you think that your life and your job and your church would grow to this point? Because it does change the way you interact with people. Did you think this would happen? Or
No, no. And
okay.
it's not even something that, I can reverse engineer, so to speak, a lot of the things that happened. But anyone who tells you, no matter whether they, started Crumble Cookie or grew a mega church, that they knew exactly what was going to happen and how it was going to happen, they're lying. And
Yes.
so I never thought this would happen. I wasn't predicting it would happen. I wasn't even trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
I heard a pastor say one time, he said, the perfect size of a church is 350. You have enough money to pay the bills and enough time to play golf. And there's a lot of like looking back that's like so true. The bigger grace gets, the more complicated my job is, the more difficult my
Yeah.
job is. In a lot of ways, the less pastoring it is. And being with people, that's been true for a number of years now. So, no, I didn't predict it. I
Yeah.
don't regret it. There's a ton of things that being a pastor of a big church allows to have happen that are incredible. They're hard, they're complicated, but yeah, I wasn't sitting around when I took over a church of 50 people thinking someday.
Right.
So, and what's true when you're wired like me, college athlete, driven, it's not even about the size. Because when we were, 50, it was like we just want to reach more, and man, maybe someday we'll be 150. And then you're
Yeah.
150 and you're like, oh my gosh, maybe someday we'll be 300. Well, now we're what we are, and it's like, okay, someday we'll be 10,000, but 10,000 doesn't even seem big,
Right.
in terms of the way it keeps playing out. And so
Right.
it's not about the number. It is really about just trying to reach people and make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that the every chapter, at least I've been interacted with you in, you are looking to learn from other leaders. You're looking to connect with other leaders. And I'll never forget being, we went down with a group called GoNet, a small group of leaders, to Exponential,
Yeah.
and had some extra days together. Got lost driving around Orlando and just talking. But like you've leaned into times to hang out with pastors, and you've created groups and environments like that. Like, why is that so important?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Gary. I mean, I just got back from California. That I was there for 2.5 days with a group of
Yeah.
40 pastors there in California last week. And so, yeah, it's been true. A couple things I'll say to it. Number one, I can remember when I was a pastor at a small church and I sent out emails and made phone calls, and some people returned to those calls and emails, and some people didn't.
Mm,
And the people
mm.
who did, I was just so grateful for their investment and
You were just looking for friends, like
friends
other
and
ministry
help.
leaders,
Yeah,
mentoring.
yeah, I wanted people who just knew stuff I didn't and could
Yeah.
help and encourage and keep. There's a lot of people that have paid the stupid tax already or who have great ideas. Let them help. And so
Yeah.
I just remember what that meant to me, and I made a very conscious decision to say, I will return calls and I will meet with people. I will always
Mm,
be a resource because of how that blessed me. So I had an experience of people doing that for me, and I want to return that. I want to give back in that. I want to I want to make that happen. And then I also know that like ministry's hard, and
Uh,
sometimes what you just need is the courage of another brother that's with you in a conversation.
right,
And
right.
so I love just being with people where, a lot of times we can get the content of here's another book that's been written about how to do multi-site, and here's another book about how to do groups. And the content problem is not the problem. Sometimes it's just the courage and the push of like, no, let me look you in the eye and say, you can do this and you're going to be okay.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
love that. I love being a part of when people have looked at me with that. And I love being a part of getting to do that for others. And then the other part I would say, Gary, for me personally, I feel somewhat of a responsibility with my brain on this. God's
mm,
wired me to be a pretty good curator of content. And so I'm
mm,
pretty good at taking a lot of information and distilling it down into reproducible sound bites to people. And I feel like that is something that I would be not managing well, that the Lord has given me to help the capital C church. And so I feel like I should swing that club well because I'm good at it.
yeah. And so being around other pastors helps you swing it better,
100%.
helps you
100%.
learn from them.
Totally. Totally.
And
Yeah.
there's
And
all
it's
kinds of,
fun.
yeah, there's all kinds of pre-existing pastor groups or networks or things. But it sounds like you made a decision. I'm going to find the right, pastors to run with or spend time with, not just for Keith, but for them, because you want to encourage them as well. I remember at one point cherry picking a group that I was just like, well, if I could pick three guys to be in a small group for a while with, it was Keith Minier, Clancy Cruz, and Mike Yoder.
Yeah.
And we got together. It may have only been 3 or 4 times a year, Keith, but but the thing you said a minute ago about like content is one thing, but like having another leader who cares about you, they know what questions to ask. Clancy had this knack of asking me the right question at the wrong time, and I'm like, "Why do you got to go there?" Well, because I needed to go there, you
Yeah,
know.
sure.
And Mike had this way of saying a word of encouragement that I was like, "Man, I didn't really know I needed a word of encouragement until Mike said that." And anyway, like maybe you could talk about like along the journey for you, because 21 years is a long haul. Who are some of the people or some of the relationships God's used to give life to you that way?
Yeah, it's been interesting. You and I, our paths first really crossed in a tribe we were in together,
Mm-hmm.
in what is now known as the Charis Fellowship, was kind of really where you and I built, most of our relationship. And in that, I've had just some incredible people. I mean, beginning with who I would say is my spiritual father and my mentor, and a guy named Chip, and our history of everything from basketball games to trips to ministry conferences to even overseas trips together, his pouring into me and the encouragement and the development and the shaping of me. I'm forever indebted, and I stand on the shoulders of that in an incredible way.
Mm.
And then, in our tribe, you start to talk about people like my friend Jeff Bogue in Akron, and some of that group that we ran with in GoNet, and that whole crew that we've hung out. You mentioned, Clancy and Mike and some of those other guys. And then my path began to get outside of our tribe in some ways. And I started to come into contact with a guy named Jarrett Stevens, who was in Houston, Texas, who
Yep.
was, at a big church in Dallas and now is a lead pastor in Houston. And he introduced me into this world of the Strategic Launch Network, which is a group of guys in Dallas. And now I'm really connected to a bunch of guys that are in Dallas. And the way I kind of am wired is I kind of lock into, if it's not ongoing friends, I kind of lock into a group or a church or a ministry for a couple years. And I try to like sort of milk that for all it can be from a
Yeah.
content perspective, but then stay connected to those people relationally. And so
Yeah.
I've just been able to do that with a lot of groups. And so I think of friends I've had, some in Florida, some in North Carolina, some people in New York, and we've come into contact with a lot of those people. So all these different relationships, and then I'm a part of a ministry in Momentum Pro now, where I'm meeting, mentoring, 40 different pastors with Pastor Jeff and I, where we're pouring into them in ongoing relationships. And then I have got, excuse me, I've got a couple guys in my community in Columbus, outside of Charis, that
Yeah. Yeah.
him and Pastor Matt and Pastor Conan, that we've met together for almost 16 years now. That we
16
regularly,
years. Are you serious?
yeah, that we
That's
regularly,
awesome.
yeah, we regularly get together, and again, it's encourage, bounce ideas. In fact, one of those guys, he's getting ready to launch his first multi-site like in a week. And so just I told that to our staff and our elders, and we're praying for them. He's met
Yeah.
with our staff and his team, and like I love that. I love that we get to be a part of what's going on through that church and that stuff. And so we've met together for 16 years with that group of people. So yeah, I've stayed very connected. I often tell pastors, like, if you give me your phone number and I get in your life, you're not going to get me out. So
Right.
I just
Good.
I just got
Good.
invited to that trip from California. I just got invited into a group text of 9 guys last night, and
Okay.
they're all over the country, and some of them whose names you would know, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's interesting that, like, I'm sure I'll end up giving and receiving in that group.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's fascinating to me how you can deepen friendships and a group in group texting. Because
Sure.
guys have all different schedules, all different things going on, but we can interact with each other throughout the day, and it can get hilarious, it can get deep, it can get super helpful. That's what we're doing with the Hall of Fame Pastors group. Like some of our best meetings aren't in person; they're actually on our phones. I just there's so many ways to stay in touch. One of the things I wanted to make sure I get from you, Keith, in just the last few minutes is you mentioned your local group and local friendships being such an important thing. And I know you've got some close friends and even your brother at your church.
Yeah.
Like how vulnerable or how real can your friendships be with people in your church? Because I know some people have the old school, I can't be friends with anybody. Others have been friends with too many and it just get burned. I'm just curious, like what have you found helpful that way?
Yeah, it's super hard in terms of, like, I don't think there's a one size fits all. I think there's different personality types. What's been true for me that's been really helpful is there's like 4 people in our church that knew me before I was Pastor Keith, and they've known me for a
Mm,
long time, and so they're
mm,
not impressed with me and what all this is. They're grateful for me and they're thankful for the gifts that God's given me, but they're not. They just knew me before all this, and so they're very real, and I'm able to be transparent with them. They know who I am and kind of all the stuff. I think outside of my brother, who's an elder, what is still hard about those 3 people is I want to be very careful that I don't change their perceptions of either people in the church or staff or issues in the church.
by
And so,
oversharing or
yeah,
by
so there are some lines that you have to deal with that. And there is a reality that in leadership, you carry a mantle of you're always going to know a lot of times the most things in the room, and you can't always tell that, and you have to navigate some of what that is. That said, there's a lot of different ways to scratch making sure you have people to talk to. I mean, in the most superficial but serious sense, if you need to scratch it, go pay for a counselor. And there's been seasons
true.
where I've asked all of our executive staff and lead staff, they're going to go to counseling for a season. And so there's that. There's people that aren't impressed with you. There's people that are in other churches, like whether it's my friend Jeff in Akron or it's people down here on different issues. I would go to different people, on what that is. I think when it relates to my family or concerns with my family and the realness of, like, one of my kids did a thing or Kel and
Mhm.
I are having a thing. We've had to work really hard to know what the safe space that is. And we do have one couple in the church we feel very good about that with. And
Mm.
we've been able to navigate that to where it's a pretty bare all things and it's a safe space to be able to do that. And so I don't think that leaders should approach it like you never can tell anyone. I also think we have to be careful to overshare. I also think we have to be careful to never share. And it's way more art than it is science.
Yeah.
What I can tell you for me, Gary, is I don't feel like I'm trapped. I feel like if I need to go to certain people on certain issues, I could do it.
And that's because you've cultivated those relationships or they've pursued you. Like how makes
Some
sense?
of both. I
Yeah.
think I think sometimes, particularly in my chair, there is a little DTRing that happens a lot of time, the old determining the relationship. You
Yeah.
know, I had a person on my staff that I was very, very close friends with. And the relationship ended, and it ended not in a good place. And it's
Mm,
still a source of pain.
mm,
And the truth is that experience does make you gun shy in terms of what that means. Now, it would also make me, if I was an architect and I was friends with an architect at work, and it would make me gun shy. It's not just because I'm a pastor,
right,
but my
right.
pastoral role in his life complicated the nature of our relationship because sometimes it was hard for him to perceive which hat and what am I telling him and why am I telling him that and what does that look like. So I think cultivating it is sometimes going, what is this? What is this going to be? How does this play out?
Mm,
I've been privileged enough to have two executive pastors, and both of them are dear friends. And
mm.
both of them are people I can be honest and transparent with. And that happened through work first, but has moved into very much relational stuff that's been able to be pursued outside of work.
And you realize that's a gift. That those are
Totally,
priceless. But
totally.
praise God for that, man. Well, Keith, thanks for the way that you just love people, like really wanting to see them and encourage them. And not, you don't see I mean, you care about the crowd, but you see the individual and you care for and being accessible to people and to families in your church and in your community. Um, and for pastors, man, to not be lonely or to not be trapped. What is something that, as you mentioned Momentum Pro and the group you're leading, what would you say to pastors that do feel trapped or that do feel isolated and um, maybe aren't sure what to do next or even who to call? I don't know. Like, what would
Yeah,
you? What's your encouragement to them?
I think I want to say this with some level of grace and humility, but I also want to say it directly. Um, there are enough things that exist in today's world that if you want to find people to connect with, you can do it. And
Mm,
so I think sometimes don't feel sorry for yourself and just wait around, wait around, wait around. And why won't anybody ask me to play kickball? Go find out some people that are playing kickball and graciously work your way into the game in a conversation. And
yeah,
so I would say be honest about why you're where you're at. Go find some people, reach out to people like you. You can steward people into conversations. Um, and then I think sometimes you just have to look and go, what is potentially broken in you that's keeping from proactively going to those spaces? You know,
yeah.
are you selfish? Are you insecure? Are you a person that compares? Do you only like it when you're the smartest person in the room? What are the things that are you embarrassed about your lack of growth, or are you embarrassed about what's going on in your family?
Mm,
And
mm,
those are way more about your walk with Jesus than they are about other pastors who won't accept you. The truth is, people will most pastors are good people who want to help you and
yeah.
interact with you. And so you
Oh,
got to step into the space and recognize that maybe what's preventing you is not them, it's you. In a way that takes a level of honest maturity.
pastors, did you hear that? Don't be afraid to reach out to make a phone call to a pastor friend that in town or a pastor friend that you know or here to Love Pastors. Keith is one of so many pastors that have said to me, Gary, if you're talking with a pastor in my area or a pastor who's going through this or that thing that I've went through, give him my number. I'd love to talk. Like I can't tell you, Keith, how many pastors have said, because I do get with just the name Love Pastors. Like later today, I have actually this week I have 3 Zoom calls with pastors who are going through really difficult things that somebody else has referred to Love Pastors because they hope we'll actually love pastors
Yeah, yeah,
and listen
sure,
to them. But part of that love
sure.
is going to be to say, hey, we're not supposed to be all things to all pastors, but we can help you get connected to someone who can help you, and
Yep,
who can support you because you need that. You deserve that. And the church deserves that from its leaders to surround yourself with. It's not the Keith Manier show, right? It's you've
yep.
got an incredible team around you that you've built over the years that you've allowed to know you. The thing that I would want to kind of wrap up with this question, Keith, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot. out of the blue, but one of the things about you being loyal in relationship, loyal in helping other people in need, part of it I see is you are still loyal to the Cleveland Browns and being a Cleveland fan.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I was too. I was there with you for 50 years of my life. And I finally was like, enough, Lord. I'm going to root for Will Howard and the Pittsburgh Steelers, even if it's
Oh my
just for a
gosh.
year. And now I know I'm getting all the traitor calls. But Keith, how are you still a Browns fan? Maybe you can, you know.
Yeah, man.
I didn't know I was going to take you here, did I? Sorry, but
No, it's hard, man. Your heart wants what your heart wants. I remember my brother and I were at a game years ago. It was a Thursday night game. We played the Ravens. It was a game that like set football back. It was terrible. I think the final score was like 10-3.
oh,
It was an awful game, and we had three. And so we drove home after the loss, and it was during the Peyton Manning era in Indianapolis. So my brother and I drove home, and on the way home, we both said, we're done. We can't do it.
Yeah.
We're done. We're moving on from the Browns. Now, keep in mind, my dad, season ticket holder for 35 plus years for the Browns, grew up going to games, I'm all in. So we both said, we're done. We're done. Who we rooting for? We like Peyton. We'll go with the Colts. So 2 Sundays later, after church, my phone buzzes. I call him. He calls me. We're on the phone. I said, "Dude, what are you doing?" He goes, "You know what I'm doing, the same thing you're doing. I'm watching the Browns." And the truth was, we both just kind of admitted, as much as we wanted away from it, we just can't get away from it. At this point, it's maybe just like the never-ending worst car accident ever. You just can't help it.
yeah.
And the Shadur Sanders thing is just going to continue to complicate this all year. So if nothing else, like I do mean this sincerely, like I'm a Cleveland fan, Guardians, Cavs.
Yes, you are. Cavs
Browns, and what I would say is, like, in a weird way, it's just kind of reflective of my character. I mean, I've been in the same place for 21 years as a church. I've been married to the same woman for 24 years. I'm a loyal human being. It's kind of like a virtue in my mind, I think. And so maybe part of the reason I can't get away from it, Gary, is I think I would be like betraying my character. Like I'm a loyal person that isn't a fair weather fan. But at the same time, man.
I mean, are you saying I'm a fair weather fan?
A little bit. You're probably smart. You're probably smarter than me. But what's just true, man, is it's brutal, and it's a bad thing to be a part of.
Well, I respect that loyalty, Keith. Love your faith, and I'm grateful for you as a friend and brother in Christ. So thanks for being on LovePastors Podcast, and keep doing what you're doing, man. Loving Jesus, staying faithful in your, obviously, to Kelly and to your family, but to your church. God's doing such a beautiful thing, and it's awesome to see, bro.
Thanks, friend. Appreciate you.